My name is Stephen and this is my channel, Heart's Delight Exports. Okay, so it's time for another pandemic recipe. We're all stuck in the house, everybody's getting bored. I don't know what you're doing to cope, but I've been making stuff and trying to bottle or preserve stuff. I've been thinking about ways of making some of the meals that we like and having them on hand without having to open a can and warm things up on the stove that way. Well, I think we're getting a visitor. Somebody likes to visit. Hi, you. So, we've been in the house for a nice while and dealing with everything. It's easy when you got a 3-year-old for your day to pass like that. Because, you know, she doesn't believe in being still. So there's nights where we'd like a nice simple meal. Something nice and easy that none of us have to work very hard for. Now, you gonna go back to your room? Probably not, but I'm gonna try this anyway. So, I'm starting off my meal today, my preparations. We're getting a pot nice and hot. So today I'm making a nice pot of beef stew. Something I can bottle like I did with the turkey soup and have ready for future need. Hot. Hot. Get out of there. Oh, you can't see there while I'm cooking. Okay, so with the turkey soup, when I started that, I wanted to make sure that I had a nice stock on hand. I ended up running short, but I still started with a stock. With the beef stew, I'm not going to have that option because I don't have any bones to roast. What I have is offcuts of steak. So I'm taking all the beef, getting it in the pot on a nice high heat. I have a little bit of oil in there to get the heat up a little bit more and to lubricate the pot a little bit. Make sure things are not quite sticking as fast as they could. And I'm going to try to get that to brown up really good in the pot. Now there's several ways you can go about getting your stew on the go, getting your stew started this way. Once your meat is browned, you could add flour and oil to it right there, and there's your thickener. It's called a roux, and it is one of the most common thickening agents or thickening methods in commercial kitchens. Problem is that while it does bring out a nice smooth texture, nice gravy, you need to cook it out longer, and if you have concerns or problems over being gluten-free, obviously that one's not going to work for you. So what I tend to do at home is to make a slurry, simple flour and water mix, and add it closer to the end once everything has had a chance to cook. The temperature, my steak being partly frozen, is already knocking down the temperature in my pan, so I got to leave things alone and get temperature back up. Let that work. I'm going to have some garlic on hand, ready and waiting to go. I wish I had some tomatoes, but I'm all out of tomatoes. I got some tomato sauce, but don't really want to open a can of tomato sauce when I only want half a cup maybe. But even if I do, that'll be something for later. So my meat is all in good contact with the bottom of my pot, and it's a good point to let that cook. Let it start brown. We had steaks for supper last night, and I deglazed the pan afterwards, and this is what I'm looking for the color of stock later. So the next thing I have to do is start cutting up my veg. I already got it all peeled. It's just time to start cutting it up. most of the water, most of the liquid has now started to cook out. So I'm almost to the point that I want it to be. I'm going to add my vegetables. Now, it might seem wrong to add the vegetables at this point. My beef is just getting to the right point where it's starting to go, it's going to start browning onto the pan, and I've added the vegetables. Vegetables got a certain amount of water into it, no matter what you do, and it's going to slow things down. Beef is nice and hot, and the veg is cold, right? I'm screwing things up, right? Well, not really. Because what I'm looking to accomplish now is not only to brown up the beef, but to start sauteing that vegetables in the beef juice. This will help give me at least a thin beef stock by the time the beef is all ready and cooked. Don't get me wrong, I've already had a couple pieces of beef that's already cooked. In order for it to be a nice stew, you want the beef to actually be cooked to the point that it's falling apart. I want it nice and tender. Basically, in order to get to that point, you have to be overcooked. I wanted some tomato into it. Forgot, I got sun-dried tomato pesto in the fridge. So I'm almost ready to deglaze the pot. And then I can turn this down and just let it bubble away for a little while. Now I'll let that simmer, and I'll bring you back to show the thickening of it, and that'll be the end. Okay, so my stew has gotten to the point where I'm ready to take the vegetables out and bring the stock up to a boil. I think I have enough there for at least 10 bottles. It means I don't have nearly enough stock to fill all those bottles. So I'm going to need to take maybe another 2 liters of water, put it in this pot, put in a bunch of my liquid beef flavoring, and bring that up to a boil. The veg will stay out of the mix now until I put everything in the jars again. My beef stock is just about ready there now. It's starting to boil away. So I'm going to put away my coleslaw bits and pieces that I don't need anymore and thicken that up. And it's an important factor to let your gravy cook. It seems rather straightforward. You take your gravy, you got your flavoring in there, everything is good, you add your thickener, and 2 minutes you're ready to go, right? Well, mostly. But in reality, your gravy will be better, less lumpy, and just better flavor if you give it some time to simmer out. You don't want to let it burn on, so you do have to be very careful with that. But if your gravy gets a chance to simmer, all that flavor of flour in your thickener, that's going to go away a fair bit. Of course, I'm going to have to let it simmer for maybe 10 minutes or so to let things cook down a little bit more. Need to adjust the flavoring. One thing you should always keep in mind is that any soup or stew that you make and put fresh potatoes into, it's likely to be not as salty as you want it to be, for the simple fact that the potatoes will absorb salt content. It's one of the tricks of the trade. You got a soup that turned out saltier than you wanted. Take a few potatoes, peel them up, wash them off, throw them in. Make sure they're nice and big so you can find them again later if it's not supposed to be a potato soup. And you haul them out again when they're nearly cooked. And during the cooking process, they will absorb a large amount of salt, considering it's only a potato. But I'll leave it off here. I have some dad duties to do, and I'll take some pictures in a moment to show you the ending. So this is Hearty Light Exports signing off for another pandemic kitchen recipe. It's time for one of the hardest jobs of this whole operation. I'll go back and clean up all the mess I made. So, to sum it all up, most of my stew bottles are in good shape. They're sealed and ready to go. I had 3 that didn't seal properly, so pot of water is back on and boiling, and going to try it again. Cleaned off the lids, cleaned off the mouth of the bottle. Going to see if that was the problems. I don't know for sure. This is why I don't put in the canning process of it, because there's too many things that I don't know well enough yet. So once that's done, and once I've cleaned up the dishes, then everything will be done, and I'll have about 6 liters of beef stew put in the cupboard for a rainy day, or a snowy day, or a day just don't feel like cooking. Something like that. And it'll be another video in the bank for Hearty Light Exports. I hope you had a good one. I hope you enjoyed watching me make a pot of stew. Hope you learned something if possible. And we'll see you the next time I'm either in the kitchen or the shop or renovating or whatever. You have a good day. See you later. Go wash your hands. Okay, so it's time for a bit of a bonus video. While my stew is cooking away there, I'm going to work on a little extra for supper. Because I bought that stew pack at Walmart the other day for vegetables, I ended up with cabbage. Now, cabbage is not something that my family tends to eat a lot of, but one thing we do love about it is coleslaw. Now, because it's only one cabbage and I didn't really anticipate having to make coleslaw, I didn't bother to buy dressing. So we're going to make dressing from scratch. We're going to chop up the cabbage. We're going to get a carrot out of the fridge in a minute and get that into it. But the most important part is getting that dressing made. So I'm going to shave up the cabbage here. Now I'm going to get the dressing together. I need some mayo. I think considering how much I'm making, that much should do. So about that much. My daughter makes sushi from time to time, so we had a bit of rice vinegar left over. Toss a little bit of that in there. A little bit of lemon juice. And next, we need to add some sugar. This was 1/8 of a cup. I'll probably end up adding more. Bit more sugar. grated carrot. Add that in there first before we put dressing in. I've tasted and adjusted my coleslaw dressing, and it tastes pretty good now. And there we have some coleslaw. So there's a little bonus, a little extra for you. Came to see me make stew, and instead you got to see me make coleslaw.